Good afternoon, San Carlos. I thought I would touch base with y'all one more time and do one of those videos I told you about in the last post there. I just finished an awesome interview with Sunshine Shoulders, another really awesome YouTuber over here who, much like myself, doesn't mince words, as he calls it, the nitty-gritty. Which, you know, I find I don't even watch those other channels. I'm only into channels like that keep it real. Now, I always respond to email bags, and I had a video request. So this is a video request about the conservative religious element to life over here. Two major religions are your Christians and your Catholics and your Muslims. Now, Muslims are more in the south, and there are some, we'll call them strict Muslims in the south. Hi, folks. But what happens is, oh, wait a second. Oh, it's not 1-1. So anyways, and those are kind of no-go areas for your, you know, expat, foreigner crowd. There's even signs in front of those communities pretty much warning you, you're not going to be welcome there. Don't bother. Much like a Japanese bar that'll have similar signs saying, if you ain't Japanese, don't come in. Now, do I see that as wrong? No. Why can't people choose who they want to associate with? Would I do it? No, I like everybody, but that's me, right? I don't feel I should have to force my ideas and beliefs on the world, right? When I do these blogs, I know that there are going to be people who disagree with me, and I encourage them to comment and, you know, ask questions. That being said, I know there are a lot of people who want it the other way, where everyone has to conform to their beliefs and their views. Now, when you hear things like conservative Christian facts about the Philippines, it makes you think that maybe it's a really Puritan society and that they don't have any fun, just because the women have some self-respect and modesty. It's part of why I came here. If I wanted just, you know, flesh and cardinal pleasure, then there's Thailand for that. And don't get me wrong, I love Thailand for many other reasons. But I would be lying if I said that wasn't a huge part of their tourism factor there. Here, it's not so much. Now, there is some of it, of course. You're going to find it in every country. It's in Canada, too. We have red light districts. We have drug addict women that will do whatever you want for a few $100s or a few dollars. Depends on how bad drug addict they are. But over here, a majority of them are, I would go so far as to even use the term devout Christian/Catholics. They baptize their kids. They honor Catholic holidays. Majority of them even go to church a couple times a week. I mean, is that a bad thing? I don't think so. I mean, do I believe in it myself? No. I've always felt that religion and churches are, you know, a tool for people to either virtue signal, or they're a crutch for people who need that to be the reasons behind their morality. And maybe that's why I identify more closely to the Buddhist beliefs, that I'm a nice person, not because I fear going to hell, but because it's the right thing to do. Now, do I worry for my eternal soul and blah, blah, blah? No, not at all. Because I believe in karma, and I deliberately try to be a good person. So, and good person is, again, subjective. Because people would say, well, being, you know, somebody who kills animals and sells them for flesh is bad. Okay. Like I said, I'm not trying to force my beliefs on anybody. I'm just sharing what mine are. Now, in the West, there is zero real religions except for, say, the Muslims. And of course, it's the, what I would call strict or more adherent Muslims. To a degree that they go to church a lot and pray a lot, treat their women the way that the Quran tells them to. But a lot of them still drink and fornicate. I don't know if I'm allowed to use that term. With non-Muslims, with infidels. So, when I read the Quran, those are pretty big deals that you're not supposed to do. So I don't know how devout I would use of the Muslim term. Now, there's a double standard, men versus women. Same here with Catholicism. A majority of the men here have zero self-respect when it comes to getting a nut off. They will enjoy a lady boy that isn't even looking like a lady. That's just a boy that does what a woman does. They just want to bust a nut. There is a lot of crimes against people in a sexual nature. I mean, if you ever hear of the Bajo, they're like an equivalent of gypsies over here, what Romanians would be in Europe or whatever, where they're a disadvantaged society and people exploit them, especially their women, because a lot of their women are just absolutely gorgeous. Hey, Mom. And so, yeah, some of those girls are 16, 17 and have 3 or 4 kids. Clearly they're breaking the rules, whoever did those kids, with them, because legal age of consent over here is 18. On the same note, you will find a majority of women who are unmarried and don't have kids, who are 20, are still virgins. They are not giving it away. They understand that the average man, a good man, does not want something with more mileage than a Mack truck. They're ashamed of their body count. They will try to hide, even if it's only been 2 or 3 lovers, they'll downplay that. Whereas, you know how we are in the West, I mean, every girl wants an OnlyFans account, and if you don't have 10 lovers by the time you're 20, you're a loser. They pride themselves on high body counts. So, big factor for me about why I see the conservative religious philosophies of here as a good thing is just that. Low body counts. Go ahead, Mom. Sorry, I want to try and not get her in the picture there. So anyways, it is what it is. Being, Catholic, of all the Christian religions, is mostly because of the Spanish influence. And as we all know, the Spaniards were diehard Catholics really before everyone else was, even before the Italians. I mean, Spanish Inquisition, a lot of terms in the Catholic Church are based off of Spanish and Latin terms. And there's like a church on every block. Some of them are really tiny. They're like old houses that they converted, but 2 or 3 times a week they will be packed. People will be lined up outside the streets. Now, do they follow the real Bible, the Christian, even the fake one of the King James? Because that was a heavily edited book. That's the reason I'm not Christian. No. They are raised and taught so many weird things that are not in the Bible that just some priest decided to do a sermon on and make gospel. For example, my favorite one from my woman was that masturbation is a sin. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that. Now, if I'm wrong, I'd love to know which version of the Bible and which book in the Bible. And if you want to put the verse here, I'd love to hear it. I think that is perfectly fine, and in fact normal and healthy, for that to happen, and that people will self pleasure over taking it from someone who doesn't want to, or out of wedlock, so to speak. And in general, sorry, I'm really hot, folks. It's hot out there, and that hat does not do me any favors. So anyways, you get that perspective that the church does teach a little bit of abstinence, of course. Out of wedlock is considered a bad thing. And that's why the girls here are so anxious to get married. Because they've already had sex with you. And now it's a way for them to justify that, because now you're their husband. And even in the West, sometimes you get that. Like, I have a daughter there who calls the little shit stain she's with her husband, because he was her first. They're not married. In hell or high water, I hope that never, ever happens. So it is what it is. Mall's very busy today. And here I am in full glory. Oh well, I guess I'm gonna get lots of stairs. So, but there is a religious conservative thing here, for sure, because of that Catholic background, and it's instilled in them from a very young age. And I don't see it as a bad thing, especially if you're looking for a good wife. who respects the idea of family, loyalty, and things like that. I'm just going to stand here and do the rest of this blog behind this board of DIY. No, they're not a sponsor, but I can't go into the grocery store blogging, and I've got a few more things to say. So, you know, it's one of those things where if you know, if you are really bothered by religious fundamentalism, it's not that purveyance where it's like, you know, all the women keep their hair covered and they're not following crazy old philosophies. In fact, they don't really follow, like I said, very much of the real Bible at all. It's really all New Testament. They have a lot of weird conceptions about Jesus and Mary and some other biblical figures. And they definitely don't accept the original biblical philosophy of polygamy, which, you know, you read the Old Testament, most old dudes had many wives. Now, on that note in particular, it's actually a crime here, as it is in the West. Now, there's ways around that. The Muslims have loopholes, etc., religious freedoms. And then you just don't need to marry. You could have 3 or 4 women living with you that you all love, you care for. But the provision is, for me at least, and how I justify the idea of polygamy is, you have to love them equally, and you have to take care of them all. And so if you can maintain that, and they're all knowing about it, so you're not cheating and slipping around and things like that, then realistically, I don't think it's any of the damn government's business. However, I'm not the government, so I don't get to say what's legally right or wrong. So legally, it's not allowed. The other side of it, of course, if you're talking religious stuff, is there is a real adherence to different types of meats here. Like I've complained in other blogs, you know, they eat the same XYZ animals over and over again. They just don't have, I mean, they eat pork. Muslims obviously don't. Down in the Muslim areas, you see a lot more goat and lamb. The only reason why you don't see it up here is it's too damn expensive, because the Muslim crowds are more larger family units and more clannish, more united in their family units. They've amassed more wealth here. They keep it in family, in tribe, whatever term you want to use. So they can afford to buy all the sheep and all the goats, and that means that the price of those 2 animals is significantly higher than chicken, which everybody grows. And, you know, originally I thought almost every Filipina knew how to take a chicken from clucking to cooking, as I call it, but sadly that's not the case. I actually have one that cannot and won't do it, because the idea of killing animals for food, even though she eats them, she can't do the actual slaughter herself. So it is what it is. And that comes back to the Christian thing. A lot of the rules and laws that my woman buys into is because of things she was taught in church. You know, they won't even, like mine has said clearly, if someone breaks into the house, she's not going to fight them off with violence because that's a sin. Whereas I'm like, no, the sinner is the person that broke into our house, babe, who might hurt our baby, and you need to fight back with lethal force, because legally, she's allowed to. So it is one of those things where there is a large religious presence here. It's everywhere. A lot of girls are wearing their cross. A lot of girls are incredibly low maintenance. Men, not so much. I see a lot of un-Christian behaviors among the men, for sure. But compared to the West, they're still better, right? I mean, realistically, even a guy who only goes to church a few Sundays a season, compared to the ones in the West that don't go at all. I mean, most of the Westerners I find who are deeply religious, it's because they were convicts or prisoners, and they get born again in jail because they realize that if Christianity is legit, they're going somewhere warm and crispy, and they don't want to end up with that. So they rewrite their story hoping they can trick whoever's guarding the gates. Or they're old in general, they weren't criminals, but they just, you know, in the twilight of their years, they know death's coming soon. They want to make sure they're right with God before they have to go and answer. I find, once again, that's very hypocritical. Just like, you know, Christians say, you know, we want to be charitable, we want to help people who are poor and disadvantaged, but in the West, they do it mostly just to virtue signal. Look at how wonderful I am. Look at what I do. Here it's not like that. There is a lot of legitimate charity for people who are disadvantaged. And like with the expat group that I am trying to join into, they do a lot of charity work. And I don't think it's virtue signaling for them. I think that it is, like when I see a dog here, I feel sorry for the little dog starving and manged and neglected, to be honest. And so a lot of people who come over here, Westerners, who are charitable, it is because it is really sad to see some of the things we see. Because it doesn't need to be that way. I mean, this could be just as wealthy and developed as any Western country. I mean, Americans had this place for almost 100 years, right? Yet, it's not. Now, part of it is, sadly, the religion. Now, I say that because that's a double-edged sword. Part of why we suck so bad in the West is lack of religion. So, you know, it really depends on what your religious perspective is. If you are thinking that you need to be a good person and go to church because you're looking to have a better judgment at the end of your days, I think that's all wrong. I'm more Old Testament, that if your heart is dark, it doesn't matter how much you paint it white. You need to change your philosophies. And really, not just virtue signal, but like truly change them. Now, as someone who, like I said, I identify more as like a Buddhist, I just feel that you reap what you sow. So a lot of these girls, I feel bad because they are so devout, so religious, and they save themselves, and they have self-worth and self-respect, and not just like prostitutes everywhere they go and give it away to everybody who they meet. And then they meet people who take advantage of that and ruin them and use them and then discard them. It is really crappy that happens. But so I don't have a lot of respect for sexpats here in the Philippines, because I think that there are countries for that, countries where it's perfectly normal, perfectly acceptable. But you bring a great shame to the girl here when you discard her after using her. And my thing is, I tell most expats, don't rush into a relationship, and you're not going to bring that shame. Don't jump on everything that says yes. Like, choose a woman that you actually like, that you can imagine staying with, and then start a relationship. You can date, and yeah, maybe you have sex on that date, but she's not introducing you to her family as her new man, so they won't necessarily know that she has done what she's done with you. But once you meet the family and you do those kinds of things, and then you leave her, you are setting her up to have a harder life. Same with the guys who impregnate and run. I mean, lots of Filipino men do that too, so it's not like it's just a Western thing. It's just one of these things where, because of the religious element, there's a shame to it, a stigma. That, you know, I think that those are the kinds of things you're going to get judged on. Not whether you're a soldier who killed a lot of infidels or bad people, or whether you know, cheated on your taxes, or whether you masturbated. So it's how you treat people and what your motives are, I think, is really what you're judged on. Maybe I'm wrong, and I'll find out one day, I guess. But for now, it is something definitely to be aware of, that if you're coming over here, yes, it is a just bouquet of the most beautiful, beautiful, beautiful people. Sorry, camera angle there. But you have to control yourself. You have to have some sort of self-discipline, because they will all say yes pretty much if you give them the time and the opportunity. But if you're not truly keeping them, then you know, you're reserving yourself a special ring of hell. Remember, treason, including treason of the heart, is the lowest level in Dante's hell. So it is a religious, conservative country. Like I said, that's why the women dress well. They have real uniforms and jobs that are not slutty. Even the schools all have uniforms, so the girls aren't dressing like, you know, prostitutes and having their time. Now, some look just amazing, you know, But it's one of these things where they may have high mileage, you know, for here. Now, high mileage from here is 10 by 25. It's not like in the West. But if you're looking for a good girl, you're looking for someone that's going to raise good children with manners, like the Mani Po. Every kid I meet wants to, you know, do the whole hand to the head thing. They have manners. They want to go to school. Like, these are things, these are foundations, and more families are together. Here's the thing, there are a lot of single Filipina, no doubt about it, but that's because of bad men. Very, very, very rarely. I'm talking probably like 10% chance that if you see a single Filipina, that she chose to become single of her own accord, and it wasn't because the man left or did something bad. And marriage here is no divorce. I mean, that's part of that religious conservatism where, you know, they think that if you make a vow of till death do you part, you should honor it. Unfortunately, it's normally the men that do not honor it here. And it's tragic for sure. So it is what it is. I strongly disagree with the no divorce, even though it's a religious edict. And I do believe you should hold your word. Mostly because it leaves the Filipina trapped in a bad situation where she might have chosen poorly because she was young, she was influenced by her family, there was a stigma because they knew that she's already sexually active. Those aren't the reasons to marry someone and promise your life to them personally. There should be a deep connection, a deep love. But because of the religious conservatism here, you can't be with someone, dating someone, hey friend, how are you, for a year or two first to see, is this a good relationship? Because no man's waiting with a woman for a year plus and not putting out. So they marry fast, and unfortunately they choose poorly. Mostly it's because of youth. And also there's the big idea that women are made to be here to, you know, be wives and multiply. And so, like, most 18-year-old girls want to have a baby. They want to hurry up and start being a mom. And there's nothing wrong with that if they have a good partner. I personally think that they should wait to get married till at least 21. I would like to personally see that be a law over here, but it won't happen. And if it did, they just break it in the smaller villages and among the tribes. Because like I said, I met Badjo girls who are like 16 with multiple kids. So it is what it is. But so I think I've highlighted the religious conservative stance as best I can, being a non-religious person, the things I've seen since I've been here. So if I missed something that one of the 2 or 3 guys who asked about this topic wanted to see, feel free to mention. I'll make a part B. And if I said something that you think is just absolutely wrong, or I'm not seeing it the way it is, tell me. I want to know. I mean, I'm off the market, so it really doesn't matter. But and I chose right. I have a girl who goes to church, who kept herself, and all these things, but who also never asked me for a peso, and gave natural birth to a beautiful, healthy girl that's the biggest kid in San Carlos. So for her age, 71 centimeters and almost 7 kilos in 3 months. So it is what it is. So like, follow, subscribe, and I'm always happy to see, sorry, I was trying to avoid camera angles there, any questions you guys might have. Thanks for watching, and hit that bell to subscribe. And of course, if you haven't seen any of the shows on Sunshine, you should definitely check those out. Sunshine Shoulders is the YouTube channel. And of course, yeah, it's Christmas over here, by the way. One of the weird things, it's not really Christian, is to celebrate Christmas for 4 months. So hit the bell, you'll see more, or win it in the post. Ciao, folks.